I'm sitting on my reflection couch. It's where I reflect. Sometimes it's the tired couch. I'm the father of a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. Sometimes it's the crying couch. But after a day of teaching, I come up here under the jazzy painting above me, and I reflect. And one of the things I'm reflecting on today is a conversation I had with Jazz Intensive's Rusty Bird. We were having a nice conversation about music, as always, and the topic of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation came up. And what we're not talking about is like what motivates you to play, and why do you get out of bed in the morning, and are you driven personally, or do you rely on the push and pull of others? We're not talking about that. We're talking about in the moments of making music and improvising, what motivates you to play a certain note, or in what way are you in charge of an experience? Are you reacting constantly to some outside request of yourself? Like, there's 4 beats in a measure, tap your toe. Don't screw that up. The first chord's E flat, but you got 4 beats. You're late to C7. Dork. Yeah, F minor 7 was 3 beats ago, idiot. So the moment we open a real book and we decide to give it the old college try, and we do pretty sincere and aggressive battle with 4 beats of this chord, 4 beats of that chord, maybe there's a play along or a metronome or a real band, right? We're always playing whack-a-mole. And we're trying to conjure things we know about music and theory and let our ear do something without ever being in charge or like leading the way brazenly. So what Rusty and I were doing, so we could get off the roller coaster of reactive measure by measure playing, and no one wins at that. No one can be. There's only so good you can be at that. So what we started doing was we set up 4 chords. They could be anything, but we're dealing heavily with 1, 6, 2, 5, and 2, 5, 1, 6. If you can figure those things out, you've got like 80% of music figured out. So we just had 4 chords in a chord progression our ear should already know and love, and at least be used to as a listener and a fan. But rather than improvise completely, we just decided to run scales that we know would be applicable for each chord, or just the 1-3-5s or 1-3-5-7s. But rather than worry about X number of beats in each measure, 1, 2, 3, switch, 2, 3, switch, 2, 3, switch, 2, we maintained time and tempo, because that's cool. That's a challenge. But we relieved ourselves of the burden of bar lines. So we said things like 1, 2, 3, E flat. Here I go. I'm playing in E flat. Da, 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 da. I don't feel comfortable to move on yet. What is the next chord? Oh crap. Da, 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 da. C7. I might play a C sharp, like flat 9. Da, da, da. And here I go. Da, 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 da. And we pretty much just ran scales and arpeggios that way, but up and down the length of our horn. And we were in charge of when we moved to the next thing. And that required that we say, oh yeah, I'm in E flat. The next chord, that's 6, that's C7. And we tread water on the first chord in time for as long as we have to, up and down the length of our instrument, until we remember, yes, Roman numeral 6, C7. I was learning that you could add flat 9s. Maybe C sharp diminished is the way I'm going to employ this C7. And I think I'm ready, and I'll switch right now. Do. I feel like once we started practicing this way, I got a little smarter, Rusty got a little smarter, and it reminded me that we are all cruising for a bruising all the time. We're taking on way too much responsibility and inviting way too many variables into our experiment. That's ridiculous. So now I'm going to, in my practice, always try to see how many elements of the music, of the real job, the mental labor, the physical labor, how many things can I axe away temporarily to focus on perhaps some other more important things, like knowing what's happening, your own self, rather than farming it out to a real book or an app or, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's an interesting philosophy, or a little like conversation starter, but the reason why I'm excited and I'm blabbing about it is Rusty and I managed to act upon it and do something about it within 5 minutes of having the conversation. So it's now tipped my attention towards that, dealing with my practice like a scientific experiment. When I choose what I control and what I vary and how many things I allow. What do you think? Jazz painting,